My name's Richie. I'm 42 years old, and I've been running Bright Path Logistics here in Memphis, Tennessee for the past 8 years. I built it from nothing, just me and the old delivery truck my dad left behind when he passed. That one truck became 5, then 15, and before long a full fleet serving the entire Mid-South. Life was good. At least it used to be. Lately, Stephanie, my wife, had been acting. Strange. Little things at first. Her phone always face down during dinner. Conversations that would stop the moment I walked into a room. The way she'd position herself during arguments, almost like she was performing for an invisible audience. One night, I asked her straight out, "You recording me again?" "I'm not recording anything," she said, but her hand twitched toward her purse, the same purse that hadn't left her side in months. We'd been married 7 years. Met when she worked at a law office downtown, bright, ambitious, full of plans. She used to say she didn't want to be just a paralegal forever. I supported that, paid for her classes, helped her study for the LSAT twice. But lately she wasn't studying anymore. She was spending her days scrolling through real estate listings, taking calls from lawyers, saying she was exploring career options. But real estate agents don't usually ask about business valuations or asset protection strategies. That night, I suggested, "Why don't we go out to dinner? That Italian place you used to love." "Used to," she repeated like she was testing how the word sounded. "Everything's used to with you, isn't it, Richie? Used to be happy. Used to have plans. Used to care about what I wanted." Her tone was cold, rehearsed, like she'd practiced this entire conversation in front of a mirror. When she went downstairs, I walked into my office and opened our security system dashboard. 6 months earlier, after a break-in at the warehouse, I'd upgraded everything, house and business. Cameras, motion sensors, even audio recording in common areas. It was expensive, but worth it. The insurance company even gave us a discount. As I checked the live feeds, I noticed something odd. Stephanie was moving around the living room, but every few minutes she'd glance straight toward where she thought the camera was. The problem? The real camera was hidden behind a decorative plant, angled perfectly to capture the room. She wasn't just glancing randomly. She was performing. She was definitely recording something, and she thought I was too stupid to notice. I've always been the steady one. After Dad's heart attack, Mom needed me to handle everything. The business was barely staying afloat, but I fought for it. 16-hour days, long drives, sleepless nights. Back then, Stephanie was proud of me. She'd brag to her friends about her entrepreneur husband, post pictures of our trucks online with captions about building dreams together. We used to talk about having kids, maybe buying land outside the city. But those talks stopped right around the time the business really took off. Success changed something between us, not the money, but what it represented. She started comparing us to other couples. "Why isn't my name on the business accounts?" she asked once. "Because you're not listed on the business license," I explained. "Dad left everything to me. The lawyers said it's cleaner this way, for taxes. So I'm just your wife, not your partner?" "You are my partner," I told her, "in everything that matters." But that wasn't enough anymore. She started asking about life insurance, retirement funds, property value, said she just wanted to understand our financial picture. It seemed reasonable. Couples should talk about money, right? Then came the informational meetings with lawyers, the unexplained Saturdays, the sister visits that didn't actually happen. Kelly called one night asking where she was because they hadn't spoken in weeks. The arguments got more frequent, more rehearsed. Every time we fought, she'd repeat the same lines, the same tone, like she was doing multiple takes of a scene. I'd try to respond differently each time, but it never mattered. She wasn't arguing to fix things. She was building a record. Then Kelly mentioned something that stopped me cold. She said Stephanie had been asking questions about my dad, specifically how he treated my mom during fights. My dad never raised his voice to anyone, ever. But later that night, Stephanie looked at me and said, "Your family has anger issues." "Based on what?" I asked. "I can see it in you sometimes, the way you clench. Your jaw when you're frustrated." I hadn't even realized I was doing it. The truth hit me one Tuesday morning in September. Was reviewing footage from the warehouse for an insurance claim, standard procedure. But I accidentally clicked on the house recordings instead. There it was, months of archived footage, automatically saved by date, and right in the middle of it, Stephanie's name in the access logs. She'd been logging in late at night, even in the afternoons when I was at work, downloading specific clips, cutting and saving her own versions. I opened one. It was from a fight about a $2,500 purse she'd bought without mentioning it. The real recording showed the whole conversation, me calmly asking if we could discuss big purchases before making them, her getting defensive, accusing me of treating her like a child. It escalated from there, but the version she saved only included the end. Me sounding angry, her crying, asking why I was being so cruel. No context, no provocation, just evidence. I spent the next few hours watching every file she'd touched. It was the same pattern every time. She clipped out everything that made her look bad and kept everything that made me look dangerous. The security system I'd installed to protect my family was being used to destroy me. That night, I didn't confront her. I just sat in my office until midnight, watching months of our marriage edited into lies. Her acting vulnerable, me looking like the monster. She was building a case. For what, I wasn't sure yet, but it was methodical, calculated, like someone had told her exactly what to do. By morning, I'd made a decision. If she wanted to play with recordings, fine. But I was going to make sure I had everything, the real footage, not her edited highlights. 3 weeks later, Stephanie filed for divorce. I came home to find the papers sitting on the kitchen counter next to a note. "I'll be staying at Kelly's until you move out." The petition was 12 pages long, filled with accusations of emotional abuse, financial control, and creating a hostile living environment. It painted me as a manipulative businessman who used his success to intimidate his wife. I took the papers to my attorney, James Morrison, who'd handled my dad's estate. He read through them slowly, making small noises under his breath before looking up. "She's asking for half the business," he said finally, "plus the house, both cars, and monthly support payments that would basically wipe out your salary." "Can she even do that?" I asked. He sighed. "If she can prove her claims, maybe. Tennessee isn't a pure no-fault state. Abuse changes everything." And just like that, I realized she hadn't just been recording me, she'd been directing me. Morrison flipped through the divorce papers, his expression tightening as he read. "According to this," he said, "she's got video evidence." My stomach sank. "What kind of video evidence?" "Doesn't specify," he replied. "But she's claiming you threatened her multiple times, that you controlled her access to money, and that you isolated her from her family and friends." He looked up, meeting my eyes. "Any of this true?" "None of it," I said firmly. "Good," he nodded. "Then we fight it. But Richie, you need to understand. Even false accusations can be expensive to defend. And if she's got recordings that sound bad out of context..." He didn't need to finish. I already knew exactly which recordings she meant. The following week, when I tried to access our joint accounts to cover business expenses, I got an error message. Accounts frozen. Stephanie's lawyer had filed an emergency motion claiming I might hide assets or retaliate financially. The judge granted it pending a full hearing. I had to borrow from the company just to pay my attorney. That's when I realized her strategy. Stephanie had hired Patricia Coleman, one of Memphis's most aggressive divorce attorneys, famous for high-asset cases where emotional abuse was alleged. Coleman's reputation was both impressive and intimidating, and she charged accordingly. They demanded mediation before trial, clearly confident. They held all the cards. The mediation was set for a Friday afternoon at Coleman's downtown office. Stephanie sat across from me, looking fragile, dark circles under her eyes, subtle makeup that emphasized them just enough to seem natural. She wouldn't make eye contact. She looked like the perfect picture of a traumatized wife. Coleman laid out documents, crossed the table like she was dealing poker, and "My client has documented a pattern of escalating abuse over the past year," she said smoothly. "We have recordings that clearly show Mr. Williams using intimidation tactics and verbal threats to control her behavior." Morrison stayed calm. "We'd like to review those recordings." "In due time," Coleman replied. "First, Let's discuss a fair settlement that acknowledges the trauma my client has endured. Their offer: everything. The business, the house, my dad's Rolex, the one Stephanie always said was too flashy. Even our dog, Cooper, who never showed the slightest preference for her over me. In exchange, I could avoid a lengthy trial that would air private family matters in court. Morrison leaned forward. "That's not a settlement," he said evenly. "That's extortion." Coleman smiled thinly. "That's justice, for a woman who's been silenced for too long." The mediation collapsed within an hour. The trial was scheduled for 6 weeks later. In the meantime, Stephanie played her part perfectly. She started therapy for trauma recovery, filed for a restraining order that forced me to move into a hotel, posted carefully worded social media updates about finding her voice and breaking free from toxic patterns. Every post got hundreds of comments, people calling her brave, strong, inspirational. Meanwhile, I spent my nights alone in a cheap hotel room, replaying security footage on my laptop, pen in hand, stopwatch running. I documented every argument she recorded, noting what she'd kept and what she'd cut. Piece by piece, I built a timeline of how my marriage had collapsed and how she'd manufactured the version she wanted the world to see. The evidence was there, overwhelming even, but I knew I only had one chance to present it right, one shot to show the judge that the real victim wasn't who everyone thought it was. 2 days before trial, Morrison called. His tone was grim. "They've filed additional evidence," he said. "Video footage of you threatening to make her pay if she ever left you." My heart stopped. I knew exactly which fight that was. We'd been arguing about her sister's wedding. She told everyone I wasn't coming, said I was too busy with work without even asking me. I'd been frustrated and said some things I shouldn't have. But threaten her? No, that wasn't what I meant. "I need to see it," I told him. That evening, we sat in his office while he pulled up the video file. There I was, standing in our living room, pointing at her, face red, voice raised. "If you walk out that door," I said, "you're going to pay for it. I promise you that." Out of context, it looked awful. Stephanie was crying, pressed against the wall, looking terrified. But I remembered the rest of that argument, the part she'd cut. Seconds later, I'd apologized, told her I meant she'd regret missing her sister's wedding. Not that I'd retaliate. We'd even laughed about how we'd overreacted to wedding stress. "Where's the rest of it?" I asked quietly. Morrison paused the video. "This is what they submitted. 90 seconds. The entire argument was what, 20 minutes? "Yeah," I said. "She's cut out everything that came after. Can you prove that?" And that's when it hit me. Her one big mistake. She'd been so focused on her edited clips that she'd forgotten something. I still had the originals, not just the ones she'd downloaded, but the raw files stored on the security system's backup server. "She doesn't know I kept everything," I said. "The system automatically saves to an external drive for insurance purposes. She's been working with local copies, but the full footage is archived off-site." Morrison's eyes lit up. "Complete versions of everything? Every fight, every conversation, every moment she twisted into a lie. The next day, I went to the warehouse and retrieved the backup drive. What I found was even better than I expected. Not only did I have the complete arguments, but also footage of Stephanie. Preparing for them, she'd stand in front of the bathroom mirror, rehearsing facial expressions. Watch old clips and take notes on which words made me react most. Even make calls, probably to Coleman, discussing which recordings would play best in court. But the most damning evidence came from a video I didn't even remember existed. 3 months earlier, when she thought I was at work, she'd had a friend over. They'd talked openly about her plan. "The key is getting him angry on camera," she said. "Make him say things that sound threatening. Judges eat that stuff up, especially when it's a successful businessman versus a scared wife." Her friend asked, "Don't you feel bad about lying?" "It's not lying if he is controlling," Stephanie said. "I'm just helping the truth come out in a way people will understand." The conversation lasted 40 minutes. She laid out everything, how she'd stage the recordings, what emotions to fake, how much money she expected to get. Afterward, it was all on tape. The only challenge was figuring out how to present it. Without making it seem like I'd been spying on her, Morrison already had an answer. She opened the door, he said. She submitted edited videos as evidence. We're just providing the full versions that prove she falsified them. The trial began on a Thursday morning in October. Judge Patricia Williams presided. No relation to me, thankfully. She was known for being fair, but she had zero tolerance for games. Coleman went first, painting a grim picture of escalating abuse, supported by hand-picked video clips that made me look like a monster. Each one was worse than the last. Me yelling about money, slamming a door, calling Stephanie unreasonable. Then Stephanie took the stand, dressed conservatively, minimal makeup, her voice trembling at just the right moments. She played the part of the broken, recovering victim flawlessly, but I knew what was coming next. And for the first time in months, I actually felt calm. Because this time, I had the full story. She spoke softly, describing how trapped she felt in a marriage with someone who controlled every part of her life. She said she lived in constant fear, never knowing when I might explode over something small. He installed cameras everywhere, she told the court. He said it was for security, but it felt like surveillance, like he was watching my every move. Coleman, her lawyer, played the so-called threatening video again. "Can you tell the court how you felt when your husband said those words to you?" he asked. "Terrified," Stephanie whispered. "I knew he meant it, that he'd find a way to hurt me if I ever tried to leave." Her performance was flawless. Sitting there at the defendant's table, even I almost believed it. She had practiced that testimony for months, perfecting every gesture, every tear, every trembling pause. But then it was our turn. My attorney Morrison started calmly, asking simple questions. When the security system was installed, who paid for it, who managed it? Piece by piece, he established that I had paid for everything, installed it myself, and kept full administrative access to all the recordings. "Mr. Williams," Morrison said, "have you reviewed the video evidence submitted by the plaintiff?" "I have. And do you recognize these recordings?" "Yes," I said. "But they're edited versions of longer conversations that happened in our home." Coleman immediately objected, claiming we were trying to discredit her client's evidence without proof. Judge Williams overruled her. "Your Honor," Morrison continued, "we'd like to submit the complete, unedited versions of these same recordings, automatically archived by the security system's backup server." That's when Stephanie's composure cracked for the first time. She glanced at Coleman, panic flashing in her eyes. They were ready for me to deny everything. Maybe say the videos were out of context. But they hadn't prepared for me to have the entire conversations. Morrison played the first full recording, the supposed threat about her sister's wedding. But this time it included what came after, my immediate apology and our reconciliation. The context made everything clear. I hadn't been threatening her. I'd just been upset that she planned to skip a family event. "As you can see," Morrison explained, "the defendant's words were taken from a longer exchange where he clarified his meaning and apologized. The plaintiff's version deliberately removes that context. We went through each recording, one by one. Every edited clip was followed by the full version. Every accusation of abuse was followed by evidence of manipulation and provocation. Then came the real bombshell. Morrison played a recording of Stephanie talking to her friend, her own voice describing her plan to make me look unstable and take everything I deserved. The courtroom went silent. Judge Williams asked to review the entire 40-minute conversation herself. She listened closely as Stephanie outlined step by step how she planned to frame me for abuse I never committed. Coleman tried to object again, claiming the recording was inadmissible since it was made without her client's knowledge. Morrison didn't miss a beat. "Your Honor," he said, "the plaintiff has spent this entire trial submitting secret recordings made without my client's consent. She can't claim that such evidence is valid when it helps her, but invalid when it proves she's lying." Judge Williams agreed. The recording stood. When Morrison finished, I stood up. The room was still, everyone processing what they'd just heard. Stephanie sat frozen, her carefully crafted victim act collapsing in real time. My wife walked into this courtroom with fake tears, edited videos, and a story designed to destroy my reputation and steal everything I've worked for. I said. She thought I was too stupid to see it coming. I pulled a folder from my briefcase, security system access logs. These documents show every time she accessed our recordings over the past 6 months. Every file she downloaded. Every clip she edited. This wasn't a terrified woman documenting abuse. This was calculated fraud. For the first time in months, Stephanie looked at me. Not with fear, but with pure rage because her plan had failed. She forgot one important detail, I continued. I'm the one who installed those cameras. I'm the one who set up the backup servers. I'm the one with full administrative access to every file she thought she was stealing. Judge Williams reviewed the access logs herself, comparing the timestamps to the arguments Stephanie had cited. The pattern was undeniable. She had methodically collected recordings, cut out the context, and built a false narrative of abuse. The recording of her plotting this with her friend, I said, proves it was all premeditated. She didn't document abuse. She manufactured it. Coleman tried one final objection, but Judge Williams had heard enough. Counselor, she said firmly, your client has submitted falsified evidence to this court. That's perjury and contempt. I'm dismissing this petition immediately. The gavel came down with a sharp crack. The aftermath was swift. Judge Williams referred the case to the district attorney for criminal prosecution. In Tennessee, perjury and evidence tampering are felonies. Word spread quickly through the legal community about the lawyer who built her case on fabricated evidence. Coleman's reputation took a huge hit. 2 major clients dropped her within a month. Stephanie's divorce case collapsed completely. She faced massive legal bills and was ordered to pay all my attorney fees for filing fraudulent claims. Within a week, the frozen accounts were released back to me. I moved home while Stephanie stayed with her sister, avoiding the media frenzy that followed. A local reporter in the courtroom published an article that spread across several legal outlets. Even her sister Kelly called to apologize. She said she'd suspected something was off. Stephanie had been asking strange, leading questions about my behavior, but she never imagined it was all part of a lie. Cooper, our dog, was thrilled to have me back. He'd never been confused about who his real family was. 3 months later, I sold the house and moved into a smaller place outside Memphis, closer to my work. I kept the security system. Old habits die hard. That trial had taught me one thing. Documentation isn't paranoia. It's protection. Stephanie eventually pleaded guilty to reduced charges to avoid prison. She got probation, community service, and a permanent criminal record. Her dream of becoming a lawyer died with her conviction. Her plan to take everything from me ended with her losing. Everything she wanted, the hardest part, wasn't the legal battle or the betrayal. It was realizing how long she'd been planning it, how well she'd studied me, and how deeply she'd underestimated what I'd do and pushed too far.